Hi, I'm your friendly neighborhood podcaster. I live next door. Hi, I just wanted to let you know that the following episode contains many spoilers. So if you have not either A, read the book, or B, seen this movie, please do both of those things first before listening. Do I smell popcorn? Ooh, are you watching a movie? Can I come in? Thank you for your time.
The moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerf Herder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker,
and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue.
And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
Well, I mean, I probably would be more inclined to ask him like how he feels, and we'll get into it with you as well as a creator.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody takes your work,
Yep.
and then you see it on the screen, and you're like, "Well, I made that choice for a reason." Now you have to judge that creative person. Why did you change that, or why did you do this? And can you separate yourself and be like, "Well, it's out of my hands now, and it's something completely different."
Well,
Right.
That's a perfect segue into this episode because I think we're already into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be like we've done this before. Welcome everybody who's listening right now. This is our book club. Is that what we're?
Yeah, our book club.
Yeah, TMI Book Club.
TMI Book Club. So get out your library cards.
Yes.
Hopefully
do we have all of our old lady glasses with the chains around the back? So
I have not gone that
around our neck.
yet. I
When
do
we
have
put
two
the book
pair of
down, we can
glasses.
take the glasses off. But I know you two don't ever take the glasses off. But
Jim, do you actually put your glasses on the top of your head and then run around and going, "Where are my glasses?"
No, but mine go down onto the tip of my nose.
You're like the old
I
school
use them
mom.
for distance. So when I have to see something close up, they go
Oh
down.
no! You know what you need is the little nose clip thing that the jerk invented, Steve Martin, right? Revolutionized that.
So I won't be wearing my glasses today, but yes, we are talking about a book and a movie. No, it's not date nights, but it is a book and a movie. The Cabin at the End of the World is the book by Paul Tremblay. How do you pronounce his last name? I don't want to Tremblay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the film version just out in theaters this past weekend and out now, if you're listening to this in February of 2023, Knock at the Cabin.
And I want to say, I know
Avon.
you guys are probably super sick of hearing about Alamo, but I want to say they did a cool thing.
No, I want to hear about your movie going experience.
Well, they did
We
a cool thing before the show, which I didn't realize. They apparently do this for every show. They make a pre-show that's specific to the movie that you're watching. So they showed all these trailers for apocalyptic movies, like they showed a trailer for them and they showed a trailer for a bunch of
Really?
other old movies, and then they had a little clip series that they called Cabin's Nastiest Knocks, and it was like the knock on the door at the beginning of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a scene from When a Stranger Calls Back and the Babadook, and it was really cool.
The Great Outdoors.
But then the funny thing was in the middle of it, there's this video of Casey and Sunshine Band, and we're going, why are they showing this?
That's ruining it.
It's not though, because
if I walked into this and didn't know that it was a post-apocalyptic movie,
I don't know why you'd be here, but
well,
okay.
I mean, listen, there are some people.
Say
Jim is notorious for not watching.
Well,
trailers.
I know, I would know basically what the movie's about, but I agree that you would be hard pressed to find somebody that just got beamed into the theater. Like, whoa, where am I? This is a movie
Wait a
theater.
minute.
You know?
I will share a story with you, which is first and foremost, my movie theater is still running. It is
Yay.
business as usual.
Okay.
I went there.
Wait a second. Temporarily or permanently?
So here's the thing, which is I get there. The showing's at 1:30. And now I have to decide, is this theater, because they don't answer their phone. So I went early. I went grocery shopping, and then I swung by the movie theater, and they got the new movie posters are out. They've got Quantum Mania. They've got a chalkboard with advanced ticket sale times for Quantum Mania and for Cocaine Bear. So it looks like they're at least operating through the end of February.
Okay.
And when I inquired, as soon as I got into the theater and went to the concession stand, nobody could give me a definitive answer. They were all like, corporate has not given us an answer. The manager did tell me that they just signed a 10-year lease with that building. So really? That just seems like awkward timing to decide that this is what you're going to shut down. But back to my original point was, as I'm standing there before the theater was open, there was an old man trying to read, and he's doing the same thing, Jim, with your glasses. He's moving his glasses down. He's sliding them up. He can't read the marquee up on top where the times are. And so I went over and I talked to him. Sure enough, he's going to the 1:30 knock at the cabin. He is going to.
Did he not know anything about it?
He came from Yonkers, which has numerous, including an Alamo Draft House. So why he's coming all the way up to Mohegan Lake for a movie theater? First and foremost, he's an adamant admirer of M. Night Shyamalan, never misses any of his movies. And he had already seen this movie, but he admitted to me that he doesn't always pay attention and sometimes he misses things. So he wanted to watch it again. And I'm like, all right, we need more people like you. So I was all excited. I came home. I told my wife, I'm like, I made a friend.
And then he said, will you sit next to me so you can tell me what's going on?
Well, he did tell me that he normally picks the handicap seat so that he gets two-seat berth. So he has an extra. He was an older gentleman. He was wearing his mask or whatever. But then I didn't see him in the theater. So I don't know if he ended up going to another show.
And then he ended with, I love these romantic comedies. M. Night is my favorite director.
Well, that's it. And then he starts going through his oeuvre and do you know this? And did you know that his family? And he's giving me like this entire history. And I'm like, this is fascinating. And I would love to talk with you. I have groceries in my car. I need to get home. Yeah. I've got guests coming over later. I need to make some soup. So for all I know, he was like the ghost of movie theater past.
So this guy did get beamed in. He literally did get beamed in from nowhere. Yeah.
Anyway, I was just trying to say it was kind of funny in the middle of this special pre-show, which is geared toward the movie that you're watching. All of a sudden you see boogie shoes.
Right.
And I'm like, and I'm going, and Henry, my son, is like, why are we watching this video? And I'm like, I don't know. And then when we're the movie,
but I think that will take you out of the movie because now all of a sudden
it doesn't.
That makes sense now. It's like
it didn't, but it was just kind of fun to realize after how well they'd incorporated.
Well, it sounds like someone's having some fun with it.
Yeah, I was going to say that's probably even more fun for the person putting it together than it is
for a lot more entertaining than Newbie.
I want that job. Who's got that job?
It was such a relief. I can't even tell you to like
not to see the Regal
the same thing like that you see every single time you go to the Regal.
But here's the thing: what about not having 18-year-olds around you tittering and making comments loudly?
Oh yeah, I mean. Thing? It was.
You're putting all 18-year-olds in.
I am.
If you're a minor, you can come in with an adult. My son is 16. He came with me, but he's an attentive moviegoer, so it's not. He's not.
He did not titter.
A problem.
This is not a tittering.
Yeah, it was all adults. It's a pretty cool setup. Because you come in, you sit, you go right to your seat. Like there's no ticket taker at the door. You go directly to your theater and directly to your seat. And then a server comes over, checks your ticket, makes sure you're in the right seat, the right showing. And then there's a full menu and it's like a restaurant menu. You were
sharing that last week.
The beer extensive. List is longer than some restaurants I've been to.
I would have fallen asleep. I would have had 3 beers and that would have been out cold.
And then you place an order and they can come back if you want something else in the middle of the theater. In the middle of the movie, they'll come back and get you something, and they're real like subtle. They'll duck down and like make sure they're not crossing in front of your screen viewing and whatever.
What if you're in the middle of the theater, like you're sitting in center row?
I saw people sitting down there, and they were managing it. They try to get you like your first order of food before the film starts,
right?
But then some people want like a refill of the popcorn. Jeff, you would have died.
I would be dead. I'd be still sitting there.
It's a bottomless popcorn.
Oh, I know
It
that trick.
comes in a bowl, not in a bucket, not in a cardboard bucket. It's like a silver bowl.
Okay.
And if you want it refilled, they'll refill it for you during the
You
show.
just ding the side of the bowl. They come.
There's a little button that you press,
There's a button, a
like
service button.
like a
This is
service
like an
button.
airline. Yeah.
And they'll come and they'll refill or they'll get you whatever you want. You can also use that button if people are talking or texting during the show.
You can narc on them.
Yes.
It's like a nurse button when you need some.
Yes.
Yeah. Morphine, please.
So
Can you up my trips?
after they show you the pre-show, they have a whole little thing about no talking or texting during the show. And then it says, if there's a problem, ask for the manager, and they tell you to ring the little button.
Is it somebody like Dave Bautista that comes out?
Oh, I think there's a famous story where Madonna got kicked out of an Alamo for texting.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, I want to
I
say
don't know.
that there's
I
a
mean,
story
I was
out there,
just
yeah.
like, I appreciate the commitment to no talking. And like, you have the opportunity to ring for someone to come and take care of the problem without having to disrupt
Without having to do it yourself.
Yeah,
and
like
then-
your own
Wow.
movie going experience.
And then face getting shivved in the parking lot.
Well, I was gonna say, you remember that guy that marched into the theater and opened fire during Dark Night? That's because
Was that because he was shushed?
It could be. Listen, people with triggers.
Well,
Unbelievable. So
But it
I'm
was-
sorry, Mr. Tremblay. He's probably listening. Like, when are you going to start talking about my
know.
book?
I know,
Paul-
but this is a movie theater experience. We're going to get on the back end. I have one more question about the Alamo, which is how
Yeah.
many screens are in this?
So in the one that we were in, it's 6 theaters. I was actually surprised by how large the theater was. I was surprised by the size of the theater. Like, it was pretty big, but yeah, it's really nice in there. You walk in and there's they call it the Video Vortex. It's a bar. So like, you don't even have to go to the movies. You could come and just
It's
hang
an
out at the
experience,
bar. And all the around the bar are like the pillars around the bar are all video covers, like video titles all up the pillars, and then there's video covers all around the bar. It's like, if you love video cassette culture, it's so fun just to walk around and look at all the stuff. Movie posters. I sent you guys the Italian poster for Videodrome and for Spider-Man. But there was like, they had a French poster for Xanadu. They had King Kong 2.
King Kong 2. Is that King Kong Escapes?
King Kong Lives.
2.
Oh,
It was
lives.
it said King Kong 2.
Yeah, probably
on
in
the
foreign
poster.
one. Well, you know what I'll do is I'll see if I can't find an article talking about this with some pictures and share it on the website. Anybody interested?
It was really fun. You're going to a movie with people
an immersive experience. Yeah.
and people who are there care about movies. They're not there to like talk on the phone or, I mean, I've had that happen at Regal where like someone gets a phone call, they answer it and start talking.
Yeah, no, I'm in the movie. I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
On the phone during the movie. And I was so appreciative of the fact that they seem to take movies seriously. And I know you guys are a little far, but there is one that's kind of near you, right?
Yeah,
Jeff?
the one in Yonkers. Yeah.
You should try to go if you have a chance. Like, make it.
No, you're selling me on this. I might have to make it a day trip.
I didn't go to Regal this time. So we went to our local, I would say mom and pop, but it's not really. It's the New Paltz Theater. And you're always taking a chance with these smaller theaters because at least with Regal, as you say, you do run a very big risk of having interruptive fellow audience members. But at least you've got a big buffer in a lot of cases, unless they're right on top of you because it's a large theater. So if you're far away from them, the interference is minimal. But if you're in a smaller theater and you have someone like that, there's nowhere that you can get away from them. It's like almost anywhere you sit, it's like sitting right on top of them. This was a great experience. And I think because conditions were a bit adverse that night, there wasn't a lot of people in the theater. One side of the theater, the left side, is all recliners. The right side are the traditional seats. So we chose the traditional seats. So we said, if we go over here, we're going to be by ourselves. And we were the entire film. So it was silent, the optimal viewing experience, especially for a movie like this, where there was no distractions from the crowd. So thank you, New Paltz.
Well, thank you, Vortex. Polar Vortex kept people home. Although I had a fair amount of people in my screening yesterday.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that the movie is, I didn't think that it's not doing well because we didn't have people. I looked before we started recording. It's going to finish #1 at the box office.
Good.
So people are seeing it. So, all right, Knock at the Cabin, first of all, retitled from Cabin at the End of the World, which I don't know if they were trying to because Cabin at the End of the World still has a lot of horror connotations. Knock at the Cabin does, it's got that harsh knock word in it. So maybe it lends itself a little bit more to horror, but I don't think there was anything wrong with the title as it was. It actually gives you more of what this movie or book is about than Knock at the Cabin does.
Right.
I agree. And I think my speculation after having seen the movie is that they wanted to distinguish the movie in some way from the book because the whole third act is not the same as the book.
Right.
Yeah. So are we going to talk the book first and then go into the movie?
I think we can do it simultaneously.
Right.
I think that's the only way to do it.
Well, yeah, because as I read this book, and it's a real easy read.
Mhm.
It's a quick read. And this is like you burn through it because you want to know what happens next. Sometimes there's a little cheat of going back in time or doing
those are
because
nice
you want to know what happens
flashbacks.
next. And then suddenly a little flashback. I'm like, I got to get through this to find out what happens. But
I
that's
think
what
that fleshes out the characters. And I think that works in the theatrical version as well. But when I got to the end of the book, my initial thought was, can M. Night Shyamalan leave this alone and not tweak this ending?
My wife didn't read the book. Walking out, I asked her what she thought of the movie. She said, it was pretty good. But I was waiting for the twist, and there was no twist. I'm like, there was.
The twist is that he took the twist out. He removed the twist.
And it's interesting because I had the same experience because my son had not read the book.
Right.
And so he was like, so, like, how is this different?
Yeah.
And I was like,
let me tell you.
Let me just recap the final third of this book for you.
Yeah.
So, but before we get in, we should just lay out very quickly. So the plot of the book and the plot of the film is that this family, it's a couple, a married couple, Eric and Andrew, and their adopted daughter, Wen, are staying at this cabin by a lake. It's very far from anything. There's no cell phone reception. And they've kind of chosen this specifically for their vacation because they want to focus on relaxing and hanging out with each other and not looking at screens and that type of thing. So one day, their daughter is playing out front, catching grasshoppers in a jar. And the couple are on the back porch. And while they're hanging out, this man named Leonard, who's described in the book as being enormous, and Dave Bautista certainly fits this.
Even if I didn't see the trailer for this, I think I would picture him as this character.
Yeah, I think the only real difference is that in the book, he has hair.
Well, he's younger in the book, right? He's supposed to be like 24, 25. So they changed some things, but certainly there's very few actors who have that sort of physical presence where you could be like, this guy is so huge. Like just the fact of him.
Yeah, because there is that one scene where Eric looks out and he goes, this guy's a monster.
Yeah.
But I think he does such a fantastic job. Really was, he was very captivating and you couldn't take your eyes off him. But a lot of that also had to do with the cinematography because, boy, that camera was right in their face.
I mean, we did talk about some of the cinematic choices later. I sometimes questioned why the camera was so close to people.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
As far as the story goes, so this guy, Leonard, shows up, starts talking to Wen. She says, I'll help you catch grasshoppers.
Yeah, after she says, I'm not supposed to talk to strangers, and then has a 20-minute conversation with them.
But he is disarming, though. He is very friendly.
She's a little girl, right.
And he knows how to talk to her as well.
He's talking to her for a while, and she's sort of relaxing, but then she starts to see 3 other figures coming out of the woods, and they're carrying these very strange objects. And now she's starting to get a little freaked out. He says, I want you to know that I'm your friend and I wish I didn't have to do this, but nothing's going to happen to you, but your family's going to have to make a choice. Tell your dads they have to answer the door. And so now she's like, as you would be, scared. And she runs into the house and shuts the door and she tells her dads, there are these people at the door. And then the terror begins, right? Yeah. So it's a home invasion story. I listened to an interview that Paul did. He's done quite a few interviews, obviously, this week, promoting the book and the film. And he talked about how he had actually written a proposal for a different book that his editor didn't like. And he was coming back from a convention and he was on a plane and he was just sort of doodling in his notebook and he doodled this little cabin. And he said that he actually doesn't like home invasion stories because they're too realistic. right? Because it's such a scary concept.
Sure.
But then he started thinking about this idea, like, what if you were asked, to sacrifice a member of your family in order to save the rest of the world?
Yeah.
And these are the most apologetic home invaders, I think, in the history of literature.
Yeah,
so
but I mean,
you never get the sense that the family is threatened by them. But still, it's a very threatening scenario.
I think that they are, because Redmond in particular in the book, much more in the book than he is in the film, is very, very aggressive. Before he can really assert himself in that way, he's taken out. So the one threat for me was gone relatively early. But the big question, I think that the moral question is, are they or are they not going to do it? Are they going to listen to them?
Right. That's the question.
I think the question is the apocalypse actually happening?
Yeah. And that's where Eric and Andrew, you have a skeptic and you have a somewhat of a believer in God. This is the perfect vehicle for M. Night Shyamalan, because he's really dealt with this idea of faith, especially in Signs, and even like Unbreakable. The idea of, is what we're witnessing and what we're being told real? Because at every turn, Andrew is like, it's bullshit. These guys are, they just want to break into my house. They know we're gay. The whole thing with Redmond comes back around. And in the book, it's left ambiguous whether or not he really was who he thought he was. In the movie, they go out of their way to kind of connect.
Yeah, which I really liked the book's way of dealing with that better, and a lot of the other ambiguity here. But getting back to their polar opposite kind of takes on what's happening, I think it's very easy for you, depending on who you are as a reader, to fall behind one of the two. Like, I believe this is happening. Like Eric, I agree with what he's saying. Or on the other hand, you can see it through Andrew's eyes.
But
so you can, depending on what you're bringing to this, you can.
Correct. Yeah. And they did, they already showed that they can be violent. And, Eric ends up with a concussion. So anything that he is saying or that he is feeling, Andrew is completely dismissing, because he feels that he's not 100% and that he could be, just reacting to his injuries.
So I think one of the things that's interesting here, too, is the pacing. So I made note of this because I was reading it for the second time. It's 63 pages before they actually break in.
Really?
So
but I'll tell you, the tension.
It feels like they're there sooner, right?
Yeah, no, the tension is ratcheted up right from the beginning. The minute Leonard encounters Gwen, and they're outside. Right. And again, there's a lot of stuff going on in the book that they pick up visually in the movie, but don't necessarily carry through thematically, because to me, the grasshoppers are a metaphor for the seven of them trapped in the jar. I don't want to hurt you. I just want to watch you. I just want to inspect it. So you take that at face value, but then you start thinking about it. Here they are. They're trapped in this cabin, just the seven of them. And they're being, the three of them, the family's being told they need to make a choice. They need to sacrifice something in order to save the world. I hate to tell you, but yeah, I'd be right there going, no, I'm not doing this.
Right. And it's especially heightened because they're a gay couple, because they feel that they're being pursued, especially once. I think that one of the great things Paul does in the book is he starts to bring you along to a point where you might be convinced by these characters.
Yeah.
And then Andrew remembers where he saw Redmond. And he's
but he's not entirely sure, because Eric doesn't agree with him.
And the revelation that Redmond is the one who attacked Andrew, at least in Andrew's mind, right? Andrew's like, he's the one I remember now. The whole time he's saying, this guy looks so familiar to me, right?
Yeah.
And as a reader, I feel like it really tips the balance against the intruders, because now you're like, wait a minute. Like, these are just like homophobic, like religious weirdos.
Yeah, especially when they find out that they all met on a message board.
Right.
The idea, they put on the news, here, look, this is exactly what just happened. We predicted this. And he's like, that just happened 4 hours ago. They know at every turn Andrew is arguing with them, because he is I don't want to say non-believer, but he's a realist.
You see, I never doubted them, because I was looking at it through Eric's eyes, and I was thinking to myself, Well, Andrew is angry and he's stressed. He doesn't recognize this guy who changed his life, even if he gained 50 pounds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking he's projecting. So I never doubted.
That's interesting because
the four of them.
I think going in, and we've talked about this on the show before, as far as whether or not you're a believer, whether or not you are agnostic, or if you're an atheist. I think you all bring different things to the table because all three of those are represented here. These four characters, and again, I hate to say it, but in the movie, they go out of their way to spell it out. But they are the four horsemen of the apocalypse.
Right. But in the book, it's not.
It's left to you
if you choose that
dots. Right.
If you choose that interpretation, he's left that there for you. But I
think it's actually said in the book at one point.
I
thought I came up with that on my own, but maybe not. Maybe
Mr. Tremblay, if you could.
Mr. Tremblay, what page is that?
Where do you think it was said?
Oh, I'm not going to look through the book.
We'll wait, Jim. We'll wait. Even they are not convinced. They keep talking. Leonard keeps talking about. I can't stress enough Bautista's performance in this, because I think he absolutely nails Leonard from the book. Yes, he's a monster. He's a big, giant guy. As Jim said, they're apologizing profusely throughout this that we are sorry. We've had visions. Everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks to us has led us here. We didn't know who was in this cabin. We didn't know that you were a gay couple. This has nothing to do with you. We're being told this has to happen. And if it doesn't happen, we have to take matters into our own hands. And the end of the world is coming.
But the thing is like the way, and the book, especially because you get inside their heads, you really feel the depth of their belief. But the way
it does flesh it out more, what their experiences were.
But the fact of their belief doesn't make it true. And that, I think, is one of the interesting things about this, because Paul talked about how, he wrote this after the 2016 election and a lot of the feelings that he was feeling at the time. And the thing that you started to see, it existed before, but certainly seems more prevalent in the last 6 or 7 years, this idea that not everybody believes the same truth. Right. And I think that really comes through in this. These people really believe what they're saying. Yeah. They're very sincere.
But isn't that the power of faith?
But that doesn't mean it's real. It just means that they believe it.
But that's what faith is. Yeah, that's what faith is. You don't have
the
proof.
Power of this, which is we can't prove anything other than turning on this television at certain times. And the one thing they do in the movie that they don't do in the book, and I think it really hammers it home, is when Leonard's left and he turns on the television and then repeats verbatim what the news reporter is saying. To me, and again, Andrew just can't wrap his head around it. He's like, is this like some C-SPAN thing that you're pump? He's trying to come up with explanations for something that there is no explanation for.
And in the book, it's more ambiguous. Like we were saying, that doesn't happen in the book, as you just said, where he's reciting the newscaster. But even when the bird flu thing comes on and it's a pre-programmed thing, I'm like, throw these guys a bone. What about that second earthquake? It's so maybe he got in his vision that it was coming on at 10 a.m. and that's why he's looking at his watch. And by the way, I found it. It's on page 219. There's a reference to the Four Horsemen.
Get out of here.
They don't actually come out and say that we are the Four Horsemen.
I was going to say.
Andrew talks about it. So it's now in your head that these are the Four Horsemen.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
It's mentioned. It's mentioned.
Okay. All right.
I was going to say,
played, Paul.
they don't actually say that.
No, but he's like, I've taught this course and the Four Horsemen who have 4 different colors. Okay. So your head goes, okay, maybe they are.
Well, I mean, as it goes on and they talk about the end of the world and the apocalypse, even if that line wasn't in there, you do connect the dots if you want to believe that.
One of the things that really gets me is, yes, Leonard keeps saying, we don't want to hurt you. We don't want to do this and that. But look, the way they come in is terrifying, right?
Yeah, well, they have to.
I was going to say they believe they're under a deadline.
They think they have to. I should make it clear. I don't believe them. I think they're full of it.
But they think they have to means that they have to.
Yeah. So this is interesting because Jim believes the apocalypse did happen in the story, right?
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna
I
leave,
don't. Like, I think
I'm
it's
gonna, but this is
nonsense.
where the
Yeah.
ambiguous ending is. And I'm gonna side with Jim
Mhm.
because there's only so many coincidences, and Eric pulls this out. He says, do you really believe that all these coincidences, everything that they've told us has somehow fabricated the story, that it's not real? And you see Eric throughout the story in the book and in the movie.
Yeah.
Really, there's the one scene before they kill Redmond that he sees something.
Mhm.
And the problem is that they never really go back to this. He doesn't really go back to it in the book, and they talk about it in the movie a little bit. And I think that when I mentioned earlier, the gentleman who I met who is coming back to watch this movie again, I think that's the scene he was looking for. I knew it was coming. I was curious if they were even going to approach it or deal with it in the movie. And I still missed it. I did not see.
He sees something in the
mirror.
light. Right.
Yeah, no, I know the scene exactly where the light comes through and of course, Eric or Andrew completely dismisses it because he has a concussion. So, but it doesn't matter. Eric believes what he saw. He believes that this is a sign that these guys are in fact telling the truth.
It's interesting to me that they didn't really present it as a figure standing there in the movie. It's just a bright light, but yet later on they go out of their way to prove to you that this is real. So the fact that was really curious that they made that choice to not have it as a figure. Maybe it was too early to give away what they were holding in the film. I was also keying in, not so much on these large faith-based questions, but some of the other decisions that were made, even going down to like maybe they didn't have the rights to say Big Hero 6. It had to be Kiki's Delivery Service. What her favorite movie was.
Yeah, I don't know.
And the fact that they did not show a scene from Steven Universe. I was so angry at that because I don't know what this show. I was looking up to try to find out what this show was that they were showing in the movie. It must be a Nickelodeon thing because this is a Universal movie, and I think they're tied. But Leonard gives the same line of dialogue.
Yeah,
I like this. To be a show that promotes empathy and understanding, which is what he says in the book. Steven Universe really does that. I don't know if this show does, so that was a little upsetting. Small stuff.
The other thing and obviously like a film can't really do this, right? But for me, a lot of the tension in the book comes from the layers of their relationships. Like Eric and Andrew love each other, right? Yes. But there's tension in their relationship because Eric is like a very intense parent and Andrew is more laid back.
I think that's any relation. That's any parents.
And like Andrew, but it creates tension. It creates, it creates friction in your relationship.
Well, you get a little taste of that in the movie. That little flashback in the bar.
Andrew is a gun owner and Eric doesn't really like that, right?
But you also understand why he went to that extent. He was traumatized by this event.
Yes, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it creates tension in the story, right? It creates tension between the two characters so that they, there's already this sort of existing tension between them, which is one of the things that starts to separate them over the course of the story, right? And there's the tension, obviously, between the family and the intruders. And then between Redmond and Leonard, especially in the film, there's not a lot of time to develop this because they really get to it.
Yeah.
But like I said, in the book, they don't break in until about 60 pages, which is about a quarter of the book, roughly.
Yeah, no, you're right. They get right into it. And a lot of that stuff up front you get as flashbacks.
So like Redmond is very eager to get in there and Leonard is more reluctant. But look, I mean, I would never believe these people.
I agree with you. I would. No, if I was in that position, I would fight for my family as well. I would not be like, you know what? You're right. I need to kill my wife or my child.
I would think, okay, I guess the world's going to end because I'm not.
Well, that's exactly what they said. Then wait, you're going to let billions? You're going to let even when's like all the kids are going to die? Well, I'm sorry, baby. I'm not sacrificing you. Right. I'm not doing it. I'm taking it on these people's words They've got me tied to a chair. What else am I supposed to think?
Break in, they scare the crap out of them,
Hell
right?
yeah.
Like one of them is breaking in from the
You're
back
not getting
door.
your lease back on that.
One of them is
cabin,
coming
by
in the
way.
front. One of them is coming through the basement. And they keep saying, like, don't do this. We're not trying to scare you.
Yeah.
We don't want to hurt you. What would you think if somebody is coming in your house that way?
Yeah, no, I've got a little child. If it was just the two of them, you
Yeah.
have a little child. That completely changed the dynamic. The scene in the bar where they're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
And yet you get these pieces of shit that can't let people just, I'm not hurting you.
Right. It's like, what does that have to do with you?
In your world in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
I'd let those people die too. I'm sorry. Leonard is telling me we're now going to be left to wander this world.
Right.
That's a shitty ending as well.
Right.
And that's where the book goes. And I will say, balls to the wall that Mr. Tremblay has when shot and killed.
And
Yes.
it's an accident. It's devastating.
It's heart-wrenching. And they still make the decision to go on regardless at the end together.
Right.
And that's where the question was, everything that we just witnessed real or not? Am I now left to wander this world together knowing that we created this? Or am I going to walk out and go down the street and see life just continue as normal? And it was all bullshit.
Right. And I think that in the book, the fact that Wen dies plays into their decision, because it's like, why would then one of them leave the other one alone?
Correct.
Right. They're together. They lost their daughter. So I don't think anything else really matters to them. You know?
Yeah. No, I think that plays better. I think it plays better in the book. So maybe this goes towards the decision, because obviously with a movie, you want to keep a movie like this tight. You know, we all talk about how we hate these 3-hour movies that are unnecessarily long. Obviously, you can't have as much as the character development here in the movie as you do in the book. Because I'm thinking, you know, during the opening scenes of the movie, after Wen and Leonard first have their talk and Wen runs in, she runs right into their arms. You don't have that lengthy scene of them on the deck in the back where you get to know them, who they are before these people come into the house or they're presented with them on their porch. Here, you're trying to suss out, you know, and I'm talking as a moviegoer that hasn't read the book yet. You know, I have, but, you know, I'm just putting myself in the shoes of somebody that hasn't.
Yeah, it's hard.
You're trying to work out who these two are, Andrew and Eric, because you don't really know. And we have an insight as to who they are. So we're bringing all this to the movie. So I think the ending that you're faced with in the book makes much more sense in its context than maybe it would in the movie.
I think that the movie was very, very faithful to 3/4 of this book. You know, we talked about these very, very tight shots of these characters interacting with each other. It's very claustrophobic. It's very confining. The entire movie, except for the flashbacks, takes place in one location, basically one room cabin.
It could be a play. It could be a play.
It could be it could be a one stage play. They are the grasshoppers stuck in the jar. I mean, I don't want to go back to that because it's obvious, but I feel as a moviegoer, if you had killed that little girl, you would have lost me.
Well, it's interesting because I thought about this in the context of Pet Sematary.
That Gage is the whole catalyst for the story. It's not like the kid gets killed.
Though he gets killed, like it's more than halfway through the book when Gage gets killed. I actually just re-listened to it recently, so I
had to put that book down. I that is one of the books that scared the living crap out of me.
And I thought about this in the context of Pet Sematary, because the original film adaptation, which came out so many years ago,
horrible,
kept Gage's death as it was, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And then in the remake that came out recently, they changed it so that the older daughter was killed and not Gage, the baby, right? And they felt, and it upset a lot of people who had read the book, but they felt it was more palatable to a movie audience.
Well, even Stephen King said it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what road you take as long as you get to the same town. But you know, I'm paraphrasing. But
what was sort of interesting was that, you know, this idea that, you know, they felt in some way they had to back off on the choice because it wouldn't be palatable to a wider audience. And I read this little thing, it was in Variety. They said, we adapted it slightly different than the book, and then Shyamalan had a whole new vision for what the ending could be. Desmond and Sherman told Variety. Desmond Sherman, I think, were the original screenwriters.
Yep.
And the book is the book and the movie is the movie, and we think they're both exceptional mediums. This is a big, wide release movie that's meant for a very large audience. There are some decisions that the book made that were pretty dark and may have been a little too much for a broader audience. That was a decision that Shyamalan immediately recognized. It's a great ending now. I agree with everything they say until they get to the part where they say it's a great ending now, because I think the book has a great ending.
It's a great ending for a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that one is better than the other, because obviously we've gone on record numerous times when we compare the book to the movie, we can't say one is better than the other. I've been yelled at for that. But I think in the context of a film, that what he ended up doing, I was satisfied with. It is not the ending that Paul wrote.
Well, I think that it's also of its time, the movie. I don't think modern audiences on the whole, the present company excluded, appreciate ambiguity. I think movies like this, you could throw a dime out and you would hit a movie that ended ambiguously in the 70s or even in the 80s. Even bringing, Pet Sematary back into it.
Right.
Yeah.
1989, it was of its time. They wouldn't shirk gauge, back then. Like maybe you gotta triple think these things now. I'm sure as somebody making a movie, like, will audiences accept this little kid dying in this movie? So apparently they felt like they wouldn't.
But it's funny because I was thinking of other movies that have ambiguous endings, and the one that kept coming back was Inception. Is he still in a dream or is he in reality? And it cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's Nolan. That's what you're getting into.
But that's
as a moviegoer, I'm going to see a Christopher Nolan movie. This is what I want.
But I think that's the problem where people go to see M. Night Shyamalan movies and just where's the twist? I'm waiting for a twist. Well, you can't just hang your hat on a damn twist. He's screwed himself in more than a few movies, but
so that means we're also hoping that Nolan will make his version of Talladega Nights or something. Like, he's a frustrated filmmaker that always has to have ambiguity. He just wants to make a Will Ferrell movie, really, at heart.
There you go.
The thing I wanted to contrast, though, with what the screenwriter said is what Paul said in the same article about the change of the ending.
I'm giving. See, this is where I want to know what Paul's.
Now, I want to point out that he is extremely polite and extremely professional, and obviously,
you would be as well, right?
Yes,
you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you.
He's not going to be nasty about this.
No, of course not.
But he says he left the ending purposely ambiguous, right? But he feels that the Knock at the Cabin film ending is not that hopeful either. I find it horrific that there's this higher power that is just going to willy-nilly sacrifice humans for everybody else. It doesn't seem like a very moral thing to do, so I don't find it that hopeful. I find the idea of what happened in my book, that the two characters reject that, like, no, we're not going to sacrifice. That's wrong. We're going to go on. That's a little bit more hopeful. So he feels that the film ending is actually darker.
More darker.
Because
he's right.
Because they don't make the choice to sacrifice each other for this perceived event, right?
But I really hope that he's not intending for this not to be real. I want him to have written this as ambiguous. Like, it could go either way.
Yeah, no.
Like, I really hope that quote is not saying. I really hope that
he's really leading. He's really leading.
Doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in the in these assailants, that you can do either.
He definitely thinks it's ambiguous. He's actually known for ambiguity in his work, and his work can be very divisive. Like, people, if you go and look, I actually read a really snotty review of Knock at the Cabin in Variety that was sort of equally snotty about the book, that described it as Paul Tremblay's divisive horror novel, which may be the only book on Amazon that has below 4 stars. It's the kind of book where people either go on and they give it 5 stars and they're like, this is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen.
Well, that's
they give it 1 star and they're like, I hated the ending.
This is a perfect segue to introduce this. My library has a post-it note. No, the library put this post-it note on. Reader review comments. So they're asking you
Oh,
Right.
put your comments down. So this person wrote this before I took the book out, obviously.
Okay.
And here's what they say.
hmm
I like horror, but this was very dark and disturbing. I read it all, though, and there's a frowny face.
so 5 stars?
I mean, I think people just don't feel like neutral about his books.
Well, I don't think a lot.
The way that he writes.
Well, we've had this discussion because you like to leave things a little ambiguous or not. And I'm sure if they made first of all, I was pretty convinced when I got to the end of this book that this was just a prequel setup for The Girl in Red.
No.
I'm like, this is the post-apocalyptic world. They're doing a whole world tie-in together here.
No. I was writing Girl in Red before Paul's book came out.
Oh, you guys conspired. I know what's going on here. We got a Henry Tremblay universe going.
Yeah.
But you do know that if they ever made a theatrical version of The Girl in Red,
They would make
Grandma would answer the door.
or whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would
You would
give it a
not
happy.
leave
Yeah.
it.
This is, I don't know who makes these decisions. If it's
It's by committee, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. But I think that there are the movie going audience, I think by and large don't want to have to think about a movie. They want everything spoon fed. And that's the problem with the ending of this movie, is that everything that we're told is laid out that, yep, exactly what they said was true.
And when they go to the diner at the very, very end,
Yeah.
the rest of these people in the diner know that they came close to something as well, because you see the waitress, everything's going to be okay, you know?
Right.
And just the fact that the movie makes it seem like every single plane in the air comes down. In the book, it's like 7. You know, it's like a handful of planes.
Right.
No,
and
you
it
gotta
could
sensationalize. Who filmed it? How did they get that footage from the beach? That's on
Good
somebody's
question,
cell
right?
phone.
Somebody hits as they're underwater.
Were
They
they live streaming to Facebook at the time?
They're
or
texting
Instagram?
somebody the video, right?
That
'Cause
one-
in the
that
book,
one
it was
kinda
somebody
took me
like from
out.
far away that sees, so they don't actually get
correct.
submerged
Yeah,
in the
no,
water.
I'm underneath the water. The hit send. Bloop.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, though, there's
No mention of the Goonie Rock.
well, there's no mention of the Goonies rock, right? But
These were all Warner Brothers properties, by the way. I think Steven Universe, I think, is somehow tied to Warner. Goonies is definitely a Warner movie, so this is just the wrong distributor for this film.
Mm.
this earthquake hitting the Pacific Northwest, there
Yeah.
was a New Yorker article that came out about 8 years ago, and it was such a well-written article that I still remember it. And it's called The Really Big One. And it's about what would happen if this Cascadian subduction zone, had an earthquake. And what you see in the movie, what Paul describes in the book, is what it would be like. It would be devastating.
Yeah.
It would completely destroy the Pacific Northwest, every city on that
the news
coast.
reporter even said, 50-foot bluffs are not going to be enough to save you.
And seismologists have been worried about this for years.
Oh yeah.
So what I think
is that part of the Ring of Fire?
but what I think is interesting is that this is where the ambiguity comes in, right? Like Paul has said, when you look at your phone, you're scrolling and you're seeing disaster after disaster. You're seeing natural disasters. You're seeing mass shootings. You're seeing disease. You're seeing all this stuff, 1, 2, 3, 4 after another, 1, 2, all these things one after another. And if you have a certain kind of brain, you could see a pattern in that.
Coming on at the same time that they're turning on the television. I'm not somebody that believes in coincidences all that much. So again, perfect.
I think Andrew was really working hard
one
to connect the dots. And Leonard was like, that's it. That's real footage from an actual underwater earthquake that created massive tidal waves. It didn't do the damage that it does in the movie, but
we didn't even talk about the opening credits, which again, is an Easter egg for somebody that read the book, because you know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
Of the visions that they're drawing on whatever it's test scores. It's nurse station sheets from the hospital. And
yeah. And again, right, because he finds the bag in the truck and here's her badge. Here, everything that they told us is exactly what happened to them, or at least what they believe happened to them. So it is all kind of spelled out, and it's.
Well, you see physically planes falling in the background.
Yeah.
And also they moved, for whatever reason, location from New Hampshire to Pennsylvania. And I think the New Hampshire locale,
that's
because
M.
they
Night
describe it
Shyamalan.
like close to the Canadian border. So you're even like farther away from everybody else. I think you get that feeling in the book than you do in the movie.
That's M. Night.
They have no.
He writes everything as in Pennsylvania.
You can't see there's no indication what's happening is real when they go outside at the end of the book, except for they talk about the purple sky. And
You mean the big,
it could be a storm.
The lightning bolts killing
It's a
the
storm.
tree.
Well, in the book,
But
it's
in the
a storm.
movie, it's like
Yeah.
lightning bolts, like
smiting you.
the self-sacrifice that the four have to make each time to unleash the next plague. In the book, it's actually less ambiguous than it is in the movie, because in the movie, especially Redmond, he's like breathing hard. I can do this. I can do this. You know, when he puts the mask on. In the book, he goes into a trance.
This is
So-
thank you.
He says, thank you, right? Again, curious. While the movie is less ambiguous, they made that choice to,
Yeah.
I don't
Tighten
know.
that up.
Yeah.
It is funny. They only whacked him once, and yet the other two girls, multiple whacks. All right, she's already dead. Why you keep hitting her? It's like, what's going on?
That's when they need Paul from eating Raoul with that
I
with
know,
that
you gotta-
cast iron skillet.
I didn't catch this, but in the movie, you know, obviously the four horsemen all have different colors. And if you check it out, Andrew's shirt that he's wearing incorporates all four of those, indicating that he would be the survivor. I'm assuming that was intentional.
Night Shyamalan always does stuff like that. Like in
I did like the fact that, you know, he was selling fried chicken on the QVC
That
channel.
talk
there.
about
he always,
taking
but again,
yourself
he's,
out of a movie. Like for some reason, his cameos do it to me every time.
yeah, because he's not just a Hitchcock walking in the background of a crowd.
He's like,
he is a
and
character.
puts himself in as an actor in each of these movies.
Right.
And this is a lesser extent, but he still is speaking in
No,
the
but
background.
right, the minute you see him, you're like, ah,
It's almost like a here I am,
Yes,
kind of
correct.
moment.
yeah.
I
No, I
kind of
agree.
liked of all of his cameos though.
Well, I mean, right. In
I-
Signs, he's a major character.
He's a pivotal character. I actually
Yes.
like his cameo in The Village because he doesn't
Yes.
even put his own face really on the screen for the, you know, it's from behind for
Right,
the most
yeah.
part.
But you
So-
still know it's him.
well, yeah, but it takes you out of it less at that point. I think
Yeah,
where it
because that's
comes
also
in
the end of the movie. And
story.
he's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hated his cameo in Signs. Him and Mel Gibson have history, the character.
Yeah, well, that's
And
what
at the
he's a
very
catalyst.
end, very end. Oh, by the way, I locked an alien in the closet. Goodbye.
Oh, I love that scene. I love that scene. Ray, don't
Maybe
go in
you
the
start with
pantry.
that. Maybe
Ray,
you
don't go in
start
the
with
pantry.
that.
Oh, yeah, but because he doesn't want to believe it. This is going back to, you know, his idea of pushing faith in some of these other you know, the Village acceptance, you know. I don't know. Yeah, he
Has a lot of the same themes in a lot of his
Yes.
movies. Things about faith. I could see why he's attracted to this material. The other thing is, you know, I could almost tell that he was going to pick the sacrificial lamb ending of this movie because it's the same thing that he does in, like, someone sacrifices themselves for the greater good, right? That's what happens in Glass. And I hated the end of Glass.
And
Like,
I think we all
truly
hated
furious.
we all hated the end of Glass. You don't build up those damn characters and then kill them.
But this is the kind of trope that he likes, the idea that one person or, you know, a couple people would somehow, their death would mean something for the greater good,
Mm.
you know.
But I think it makes sense, again, in the context of the movie, just like the ending in the book makes sense because Wen is gone in the
Right.
book and all they have is each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Wen is still here. So there's a fear that if this is true, and Eric thinks that it's true,
hmm
that they'll have no life and that he
Yeah.
wants Wen and Andrew to have a life. And so I think the decisions both make sense in the context of their medium.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. I mean, if you don't kill Wen, you almost have to choose the sacrificial lamb ending.
But I do think it was too early for boogie shoes. Just give it a couple weeks
But
before you
that
put
was-
the boogie
well,
shoes
I mean,
on
obviously
again.
we can't, 3 weeks later,
Yeah.
see them in the truck. And that was interesting because, she turns the radio on. They look at each other like, oh, crap, this song? And then she turns it off. And then he turns it on. Yeah. So it was interesting. Yeah, they got over Eric's death pretty quick.
Actually, the thing that really stressed me out at the end was that she was sitting in the car not buckling her seatbelt.
Oh my God, you were not pulling out right
After all this,
you just survived the apocalypse and then you die in a car crash.
And she didn't buckle her seatbelt until the very last second. I was like,
yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to
buckle her seatbelt.
Wow, we're parents.
I know. It is such a parent moment.
She's too small to even be in the front seat, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
But I would have liked them turn on the car. Boogie Shoes comes on. Andrew looks at her and would say, "Too soon," and then turn it on. Then
or rip the radio out and throw it. You know, just like at the end of Poltergeist when they push the TV out to the curb.
But let's also, this may be a bit more obvious, this change, because Dave Bautista he's on the head of the call sheet every day. So he's the star of this movie. He doesn't survive. Of the four, he's not the last one to survive at the end of the book. He is in the movie. Right. And that's kind of, obvious why they made that choice.
I didn't really mind the order in which I would be surprised if they decided not to even kill him. I don't know. At least then he could say, yeah, it was true. It was true. Look at that. I was right all along. But
having Sabrina actually go along with them, so torn about if this is happening or if this is not. Again, perfect for the book.
I think that's one of the things that really makes the book feel so ambiguous, because she was such a true believer. But then, like I said, that revelation when Andrew says, Redmond's the one who attacked me. And now she's doubting everything she's seen. It's such a
he says, go get his wallet. And Wallet's like, no. Leonard's like, no, we're not doing that. Because if you're right, then I have to question everything that I've done up to this point.
But again, I'm questioning that because Eric's like, I don't see it.
But Eric has a concussion.
And it's interesting, even in the
Eric
flashback,
has a concussion. But the book goes on to say that Andrew Googled this guy. He was obsessed with this guy, yet he doesn't recognize him until an hour into this assault.
Well, I mean, he says he gained weight. His
but still
different.
Still,
right?
if somebody attacked me, if they had a Mickey Mouse mask on, I think I would know that it was them.
But what's interesting is in the flashback, when you see that scene, you never actually see O'Bannon's face.
Right. It's
although you hear his voice, and that is the same voice. I don't think that they're. I don't. I think they're.
It doesn't matter because they show at the end.
They do. They do.
They show you flat out. You see his ID twice.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They go out of their way to connect the dots and to spell it out. But if they just left that flashback in, and again, I guess I didn't pick up that the voice was exactly the same. But nice to see Rupert Grint get some work.
I mean, he's been doing a lot of stuff.
Is he? Yeah. I guess I just need to get out more.
You could also see that even if the book spelled out that he was O'Bannon, that is this really a coincidence? Why are they the chosen ones? But Jonathan Groff, I don't know if you've seen the show Mindhunter on Netflix.
I know
he's great in that, and love him from Glee as well, because I was an old school Glee fan. So it was very nice to see him in this.
Yeah, no, he did. I thought the acting was pretty spot on. I really enjoyed the performances.
I mean, also he's King George in Hamilton.
Oh, of course, yes.
That's right.
Steals the show.
I didn't even make that connection.
The real creepy thing, one of the real creepy things about the book, there's many. Obviously, Eric is seeing things that nobody else sees. The flies that he's.
Oh, yeah, that is something that's not picked up in the movies. You're right.
Yeah. Like the fly, because it's Eric that turns on the TV for the last time because the fly leads him to. So
yeah. I think in the book there's more little.
I'm talking myself out that the book is even ambiguous.
Well, he gives you little hints. You either follow the fly or you don't.
I mean, but because I'm such like in real life, I'm always like, nope, that's nonsense. Like, I think everything's nonsense. People like, I saw a ghost. I'm like, you didn't. Everything. So for me, I'm totally Andrew in this book. I identify so strongly with him. And I just kept all the parts where Eric is talking about like the flies and stuff. I'm like, man, his concussion's real bad.
Well, you see, but that again, that's faith for you, because I really sympathized with
Eric.
With Eric, yes.
Yeah.
No, I sympathize. I just thought
He's
been
crazy.
hit on the
He's
head.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't think so. I
He got
didn't.
his
I thought he was.
backbone.
I thought maybe that the bonk to the head maybe was just opening some doors of his.
Yeah, because at
perception.
one
Who
point he
knows?
even says, "I see clearly now."
Mm.
He saw it. I don't know. I'm leaning toward when. I just want to watch cartoons.
But they even see at the end, talking about how they're walking off at the end of the book. What they're seeing is different, because Eric sees like the purple, very strange, ominous skies, and Andrew just sees a storm coming.
Right.
Right to the end.
Yeah.
It's
That's Terminator
Is it or
territory
isn't
right
it?
there.
But the book is more involving and more successful. Not to discount the movie, because I think, not having read the book, I think it would have been a very enjoyable film-going experience. But I think that the book more successfully pulls off the scenario and this story. And this is what we're going to say, I think, 99.9% of the time whenever we do a book club book. You just get more meat.
But I like, I like the book because it does lead you to make up your own decision, to make up your own mind, to be like, okay, I'm gonna side with Andrew, or I'm siding
and in my
with
case,
Eric,
I didn't even feel like I was making up my own
making
mind.
a side.
Like I read it as this,
which is great. Yeah, which is, I think, probably his intent. Well played. I did see that when they did the initial the premiere, and when people were walking in, they actually were asking if they would make a choice and give up one of their prized possessions, usually probably their cell phone, and if they did, they would get a prize at the end. So they were playing into this whole choose kind of a thing. I thought that was a neat. It's like, if you give up your phone, I'll give you a prize at the end. I'm not giving up my phone. All right, jerk.
I saw some pictures of Paul on the red carpet and stuff. I mean, it just must be really cool in one sense as an author, and on the other side of that, you've written something and you've given it over to somebody else, and you're, you have to accept their interpretation and their vision of your work, and right on the edge of this. So, where somebody is trying to adapt my work right now, and they're already like, well, we're thinking about changing this and we're thinking about changing that. And I'm like,
you got to divorce yourself. Right? You have to.
The
just
book
say
is the book. People always have the book,
correct,
and you can always go back to it, and you can always, read the book again if it, like, that version of the story like means that much to you, and you just have to let it go. You just have to, like.
I would think that paycheck would soften the blow a little.
Let me tell you.
Am I wrong?
Let me tell you. That,
are you all about your art?
That Hollywood money is so much better than publishing money. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, well.
Even if they just option your thing, you're like, wow, I've never gotten this much money before in my life.
Go ahead, do whatever you got to do. You want to make that wolf into a lamb chop? Go right ahead. Good job.
But
we're thinking of doing Alice as puppets. Okay. All right. Okay.
It's not even a joke. A German theater company wanted to turn Alice into a puppet show.
No. I just nailed it.
For real.
I should be working for Hollywood.
But we couldn't let them because the book was under option at the time by another entity.
You go back to them now? You're like, are you still interested in this?
Yeah. So it's funny that you said that.
That's pretty wild.
The other thing I saw watching like some of these little red carpet things was really cute. The actress who played Wen, Ben Aldridge and Jonathan Groff had given her a little necklace. And she was like, Daddy Andrew and Daddy Eric gave this to me, and it says tiny daughter on it. And on the back, there was like a little family picture of them, and she was wearing it on the red carpet. It was like very adorable.
Now, can I ask, was that just makeup on her cleft lip?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's just makeup. I don't think
that she really was.
That would be an incredible casting director if they were able to find such an adorable girl that actually had the needed scar on her lip. Kristen Cui, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. Adorable in this movie. I would have been inconsolable if her fate in the book happened to her.
No, that's what I'm saying. I would. Yeah, you would have lost me as an audience member. I think I can take it in the context of the book, but.
Well, I started to get a little tense when they're wrestling for the gun in the bathroom.
Yeah, you're waiting for it.
And I was like, oh my gosh, are they going to do it?
They're going to do it. They're going to go for it.
And then I'm thinking about my son, and I was like, oh, he's going to be so upset if this happens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But then, they made a different choice. The film really changes after the scene in the truck. right? Because in the book, Sabrina runs away, right?
Mhm.
Andrew has the gun. He goes in the house.
Yeah.
Adrian runs it. Adrian's not dead, right? Adrian
Right.
runs at him. He kills her by accident because she's got the knife in her hand. Like there's this whole like that's literally where the book and the film diverge. That's
Yeah.
you can actually
Like I said,
see the
it's
point.
very, very faithful. The first 3/4 of this movie, really, I think they stuck it.
Yeah. And I think character-wise, it's very faithful as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, like I said, Bautista just really blew me away. And I know, he's now, I think he's a little full of himself. Now he's out there. He's all proud that he's now pushing away from the MCU and I want to do serious work. And there's still got to be room for some fun. Not everything's got to be serious. You can still be a serious actor.
I think I can understand this though, because when people start to put you in like a
category, you're
slot.
This type of actor,
right?
You play these type of roles. You're this type of author. You've written these handful of books. Continue that road. No, I don't want to do that. I've always painted in this style. Now I'm going to change it. Why are you doing that?
Right. I think he's up. I think he's still up for those roles as long as he doesn't have to go into 14 hours of makeup every day.
Yeah, that's also got to be pretty grueling.
Yeah. I think what's interesting for him is like, he was just in Glass Onion. And then he was in this, so he sort of gets to show a little bit more of his range.
And then starting because M. Night said that he cast him in this because of Blade Runner.
Right.
And he was really good in that. He was really good.
Yeah.
They made a conscious decision to use 1990s era lenses to give this an old school look.
I was gonna bring in. They shot this on 35 millimeter in Panavision, which I think also helped a lot with those real extreme close-ups that feel like wide shots, where the faces just fill the screen, and either you're like, all right, what's going on here? To me, it just created a very intimate.
Yeah, they probably were trying to go for a claustrophobic, kind of a feel.
Even right up front, that little back and forth with Wen and Leonard, sitting there catching grasshoppers. Tension is just like, all right, what is going on here?
And I was asking myself because, when in the movie at one point starts freaking out, and that allows Andrew and Eric to really start struggling against everybody's attention is on Wen.
Pull that crap you did at Thanksgiving. Remember that thing you did at Thanksgiving? Oh, you mean when I acted
Where
like
in the book, she was more, like going in and out of comatose states. Like this is not, but where in the movie, you can tell she's really with them trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. And of course, she survives to the end.
Eric was none too subtle trying to get out of those ropes, though.
No. In the book, I thought it was funny when they're whispering to each other. You always get Leonard, I can hear you, right? Because they never make that joke in the movie, but they're still whispering loudly to each other as if no one else in the room can hear them. And that's all this cabin is really one room. Not filmed in Pennsylvania, even though the movie is set there. Filmed in Burlington County, New Jersey.
Jersey.
Interesting. Yep. And they pushed up the release 2 weeks to get out of the way of Quantumania because it was originally supposed to open on the same day.
Oh, smart move.
Yeah.
Speaking of Quantumania, I know you probably had a completely different experience, Christina, with the trailers, but outside of Quantumania, all my trailers were horror.
Yeah, we did see a bunch of horror trailers. Actually, wanted to ask you guys if you saw the trailer for Beau is Afraid.
No, did not see that one. No.
It's directed by Ari Aster, who directed Hereditary and Midsommar.
I'm afraid I will not be watching it.
Well, I'll tell you that the preview for this movie is so weird because I was watching it and I'm like, is it a horror movie? Is it a Wes Anderson movie? Is it a comedy?
Really?
It had such a weird
I'm saying
vibe.
the same thing about Cocaine Bear. I'm still trying to wrap my head around.
I mean, Cocaine Bear looks like they're just leaning into like the absurdity of the premise. But like Beau is Afraid. Seriously, go watch the trailer.
I'll have to look it up.
What the heck?
Beau is Afraid? Is that what you?
Beau, Beau, is Afraid.
Okay.
Starring Joaquin Phoenix. I can't figure out from the trailer, like, is it supposed to be a comedy? Is it horror?
That sounds like I would rather watch that than Evil Dead Rise.
Oh, you finally watched the trailer,
Screw that crap. I am not watching that. You are not. I know you guys are going to be like, we're going to watch it. I'm like, no. You are going to take me kicking and screaming for that one.
Well, that's the beauty of going to like one of these smaller mom and pop theaters. I get one trailer and the movie starts.
That's it, huh?
Yeah.
What did you see? What trailer?
Because it was Cocaine Bear.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we saw Cocaine Bear, we saw Beau's Afraid, we saw Scream 6, we saw
Yeah, New York City, huh? You mentioned that. I don't know how I feel about that.
I think I already know who the killer is. So.
You said that. I guess we don't need to watch it then.
What I'm gonna do is write it down in my notebook.
I was gonna say we're gonna do a Karnak. You put it in an envelope
and then I'll like reveal it, to you guys the following.
I was right. She's just gonna write every name.
No, I know who it is. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's no fun.
There's 2 indicators in the trailer. If you're
Why
a
would
fan,
they do that then?
I think there's 2 indicators in the trailer that tell you who it is. But I don't want to ruin it if you guys are invested. If you're not
Fair
invested,
enough.
I'll tell you what I think.
We do have to pick a pairing for that movie, by the way.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But
That's
we
okay.
should finish up this movie.
I think we're done here. What else? Do we got anything else to bring to the table?
Well, buckets.
Yeah.
I did. Oh, are we doing buckets? I didn't.
We're
think we
doing
did
buckets. Yeah, we usually do buckets for the movie and for the book.
5 for the book, 3 for the movie. I don't like endings that serve things on a platter for you. I think they did okay, and I couldn't separate my feelings about the book from the movie. So it's not like necessarily a knock against the movie per se, and no pun intended.
I thought I was the one doing puns. I'm gonna go 4 1/4 for both. I think they operate completely separate. I appreciated what they tried to do with the movie, but I really did enjoy the book. So 4 1/4 for both.
Well, I enjoyed the book more so than I did the movie, but I'm looking at this. If I didn't read the book, what buckets would I give the movie as opposed to what buckets I'm giving it because I read the book? Yeah, I think I would go 3.5 if I didn't read the book. Because I did read it. I'm still waffling between 3 and 3 1/4. So I'll give it 3 1/4 for the movie, and I'm going to go 4 for the book. I appreciated the ambiguity and letting you read it through your own background and bringing your own thing to it, where the movie doesn't really afford you that. Yep. 4 for the book, 3 1/4 for the movie.
I'm so glad you guys liked this book. I really am, because it's like I said, this is a polarizing book, and I was like, what if they hate it? So glad.
Paul, come on my show.
I know. I should have asked him.
Well, now that you know, hindsight's 2020. The one thing we didn't bring up, and I thought it was really interesting, was the score. I thought there were some real interesting choices. Very low key. Wasn't like in your face, but there you go. Go check it out. Go to your local library, take out the book, and then go to the movies.
Jim, you're going to have to go back and put a little note at the beginning that this is a spoilerific review.
You just have to imagine that, right, somewhere out there, there's people listening to us for the very first time. So, we should.
And speaking of going back and adding a note, I'm going to have to add my own note to this little post-it on the back of my book.
You better put a TMI sticker in there. Just put the bookmark at least. I was telling the gentleman I met yesterday, and I don't think he knew what a podcast was. So he was not impressed. He was not impressed. So I let that one go pretty quick.
That happened the first time I told my parents, like, I had done a podcast, like I was interviewed like as an author, and they're like, what is it? I'm like, it's like radio.
Yeah, my pat answer is it's like radio, but on the computer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have to go with. It's a radio show on a computer. So speaking of which, thank you very much for listening.
But also, speaking of which, what are we doing next week?
You guys, we are doing John Wick 1 through 3.
Wow, that's
so
3 movies?
It's a triple feature here. So the big question is, when are we going to go to the concession stand? Between 1 and 2 or between 2 and 3? You'll have to tune in to find out. But we are bringing back our normal features next week. We've took a moratorium from news, the concession stand, and what else did we do this week? But all that stuff will be back next week.
Oh, next week we'll be back. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So thanks for listening.
Yes. Thanks again. If you do like this, share it with a friend and 5-star review, please.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends. It means the world to us and helps our listenership grow.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. tpublic.com/TMI confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well. I'm just saying.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you. Yeah, and have you watched the trailer for Scream?
Nope.
I think I already know who the killer is.
You can only have so many people.
I think you too will know who the killer is.
Then why am I going to watch it then? I don't want to watch the trailer. I don't want to watch a movie. Why am I going to watch the trailer?